The reality we live in can be a very strange place. Most of the time, fact being stranger than fiction. How will we ever start to understand this reality we live in unless we question everything? Join me and a guest as we unravel the mysteries of this reality, one topic at a time. This is Inquiries of Our Reality with Shayn Jones.
What is up, Inquirers, and welcome to the expanse of deep, open-minded conversation. I'm the one they call Shane, and today for you guys, I actually have a return guest who's actually one of the OG listeners of the show, and he came on back on episode, I think, 74 to share some of his bizarre experiences all happening in New York, and today he's coming back on to dive into a little bit more of what's been happening in the area, a bit more of his research, and specifically one area in New York that has a lot of weird reports and high strangeness. But before we can dive into this one today, we of course have to do some quick updates. So first and foremost, I know I mentioned on the last couple episodes, and I will probably find a way to throw it into the ad breaks at some point, but don't forget to go and check out the Bizarrities Etsy store. Got that all set up now, and I recently updated that again, made it look a little bit cleaner, a little bit nicer, so don't forget to go and check that out. And there should be some more flavors coming down the line. Just wait until I move some of the current blend out, and then after that I have a lot more new flavor varieties I'm going to try out, expanding not just into yerba mate, but also diving into black teas, herbal teas, green teas, and a lot of really cool stuff on the horizon. So make sure you guys follow that. Don't forget to go and check it out and keep updated on that. And if you are interested and you guys want to get a reoccurring tea subscription, you guys can go and check out the Tea Club available on the Patreon. With that, you'll get, again, 2 bags of tea reoccurring every single month on top of any new samples of any new flavors or blends that I end up making. And you'll also get all the other perks of the Patreon. So it's a fully unlocked tier, so definitely go and check that one out. And the last little bit of news and updates for Bizarrities is that I am still doing the giveaway. That's going to be going until November 30th, and the winners will be announced on December 1st. For that, you will get a bag of both of the different blends that I currently have. All you have to do to enter in that is go and follow Bizarrities on Instagram, and I will be using a random number generator to select somebody out of the people following the page. So make sure you guys are following that page by November 30th. And before we get into the show, just a quick message. This podcast has a strong focus on community engagement, so I encourage all listeners to share their own experiences and research on the show. That said, if you guys have an encounter or experience you would like to share on the show or have me investigate, please email me at ommencounterreports@outlook.com, or you guys can also call into the OMM Encounter Reports hotline. That number is 313-364-1551. And either one, I can use your recording or your typed out experience on the show if that's totally okay with you guys. On the other side of it, if you don't want your experience talked about on the show whatsoever, you just want somebody to talk about it with, or you want somebody to possibly come out and investigate it, that's totally okay too. Just let me know exactly what you want to do with your experience when you report it. And of course, if you want to keep it completely a secret, I can definitely do that. I'm always here to be a listening ear for anybody that needs to share anything or have something investigated. And if you guys are too far away from me, I know a lot of investigators, so I'm sure that I could send somebody out to your area. And on the other side, if anybody's interested in being a guest on the show, you guys can email me at inquiriesofourrealitypodcast@outlook.com. And every single thing that I mention is all available on the link tree, which is available down in the show description. And with that, let's get into the show. Please welcome back to the show, listener and longtime friend, Brian Synenki. How's it going today, man?
Doing good, brother. How you doing?
Absolute pleasure to have you back on the show, man. It's been a long, long time. You were one of my OG listeners. You ended up coming on and sharing your experiences on episode 74, if that shows anybody how far back you listened. But I don't even know when you started listening. I'm pretty sure that you were probably one of the first listeners that actually started interacting with me. So it had to have been really, really early in the show.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I mean, you're up in 200 and something now, that episode. So, right?
Yeah, this would be number 272. So kind of, I almost wish that it would have been number 274 because that would have been really funny if it was exactly 200 episodes later.
The CERN machine did not align, but it's all right. We're close.
Good enough. It's about 200 episodes. We can just put it that way.
Yeah. Awesome.
So I guess a good spot to start for anybody that may not have listened to the previous episode. I know that you come on, you end up sharing some of your experiences you have in New York and everything, but I guess a good spot to maybe start would be let everybody know a little bit about you, a little bit about yourself, what type of stuff you've experienced, and even if you want to kind of give them a little run over of the last episode we did together, however you kind of want to start it off, since it's a little bit different since you're you don't have a show and all that kind of stuff to promote. You're just one of the awesome listener friends that happens to come on and be happy with sharing their experiences. So.
Yeah, one of the OGs, I guess, right?
Straight real OGs. Like you're probably the OG.
That's awesome. Yeah, so I live in Central New York. I'm a welder by trade. I build and fabricate milking parlors, milking systems for milking dairy cows. It's my main gig. When I'm not doing that, I'm out hiking or fishing, hunting, snowmobiling, cutting firewood, enjoying the outside.
Always in the most beautiful places, because you send me pictures of like, oh, check out this landscape, check out this place I'm hiking at, and it's always like the most beautiful places, man.
It is. In Central New York, anybody from out of state that you talk to has the idea that New York is city. It's rural up here. There's, a quarter mile between neighbors where I live. The Adirondack Park, 6 million acres, is just north of me by takes me about 15 minutes to get there. So if you want some peace and quiet and a little solitude, it's not very far away. It's nice and quiet here where we live.
I think it's one of those things that the city always overshadows the rest of the state. So it's like Detroit. People think of Michigan, they think of Detroit. Even though 90% of Michigan is rural, everybody associates it with that city. But especially New York, it's like you have that giant area where it's all city. So eventually it has to spread out. And when you start getting into your area, yeah, people don't realize how vast New York is. Like I get a lot of like squatchers and Bigfoot, not Bigfoot, but dogman hunters, whatever you want to try to call them. People that are going out and looking for bizarre areas and strange experiences. And one that pops on in the show all the time is Al, but he's from New York too. But yeah, there's a lot of vast area with a lot of high strangeness, it seems, in New York.
There's a lot of area that is not city, and anything can happen in that area. I guess there's a lot of uncharted territory. I was talking to a fellow DEC officer, basically a forest ranger in New York last year, about just the Adirondack Park itself. It's so large, massive. I'm like, you think there's people living out here in the woods that are, off the grid, just hiding out from society? Back in the day, there was a few, pretty popular hermits that lived there. And he goes, I think we'd find them. And I, kind of in my brain, I'm thinking, any of these trails, you get deep in the woods, you can be 20 miles from any road. And you hike a mile off of a main hiking trail, there's nothing in either direction for 20 miles. I mean, there's a lot of ground to cover and for anything to exist. And, so who knows? It's the unknown out there.
I mean, even as far as people go, man, it's like when somebody goes missing, think about how much time and effort it takes to just find somebody who's potentially not even moving out in the middle of the woods, let alone imagine how much resources it would take to actually know who or what is actually out in those woods if it's constantly a moving target, be it if it's, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, hermits or whatever. It's like if they're a moving target, it's going to be a lot harder to find than what people think it is. And they're not going to waste the resources like flying over the place constantly with like a thermo trying to just figure out if people are out in the woods. Like it's not worth their time and effort. If somebody gets hurt, of course they're going to go look, but they're not going to constantly be keeping track of who and what is whatever passing in the woods. I mean, of course they probably have like tagging and stuff like that on certain animals, but you can only do so much with as many people as there are working at that park for as big of a park as it is.
Yeah, it's a very minimal, how do I put it? Group of rangers and uncon police that, patrol the area. It's probably one ranger uncon per, 200 square miles. It's not a very big position, unfortunately. But, other than the park and some experiences there, we had talked on the last episode which I kind of have an update on, something that I spoke about on that. I've been on another channel. I did an interview with Adirondack Bigfoot. Shout out to John. He's out of Lake George, New York, and we had done an interview, and one of the first comments on the YouTube channel of his was that somebody had the same experience that I did, that I had a few years ago recently. So we'll get into that in a minute. But other than that, I've experienced a lot of weird stuff. I don't go looking for things. Everything just kind of seems to happen to me, especially in the woods. Not never seen a Bigfoot. I don't think I ever want to see one. But UFOs and just strange occurrences, and seem to be kind of a target or something. I don't know if I got a weird level of water and salt or something in my body that makes everything focus on me or whatever. But
or you're just aware of it. I mean, that's also the other thing too, is that there might be more interactions than what most people realize that they have. It's just a matter of they're not adamantly paying attention to it. It's kind of like, if you're walking straight and a ghost moves by you to the right or something like that, or Sasquatch moves by you to the right, and you're not even having Sasquatch on your mind, then you could have something right next to you and never even realize it, never even realize you've had an experience.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you're not paying attention, and that goes for any point of day and time in my life. I'm always pretty hyper aware of everything, my surroundings and what's going on. Especially in the woods, it's not hard to, be out on a trail hiking or just kind of, moving along at your own pace and kind of taking it in and not really paying attention. And, things can happen all around you. You would never see it because you're not paying attention to it,
Exactly. And I guess before we get into some of your experiences, you kind of lay down the groundwork a little bit as far as like how vast this area is, but as far as like other people, not just yourself, but what are some of the reports that you're typically getting from this area or that you're hearing around town, as far as like what types of beings are out there, what type of encounters are people having, like what's kind of the background as far as like the high strangeness side of this area?
So we have the Bigfoot thing, which is, we're talking before the show, it seems to be a kind of a downfall on your end of things, that it's kind of calming down. And I'm just telling you, I'm like, here where we live there's like an uptick in it, and everybody's talking about it. And there seems to be more involvement in that community of people coming out and talking about their experiences. So maybe it's a situational thing. Maybe they're moving here in the area, or they're migrating, or whatever they do. Maybe they're, whatever, more people are seeing them or having experiences. There was a friend of mine that also has a podcast out of Lake Placid. I'd definitely check that out. It's a hiking podcast, but he has some Squatch stuff on there, and he just did an interview last week on an experience. A gentleman had written into him about an experience that he had, and he actually had some videos with sound of whooping, and which is kind of unheard of. I've never heard anybody here having a whooping encounter of any kind. It's always, being paralleled in the woods, or things moving, or rocks being thrown. But he just did an episode on it. It was his last episode. I'm not sure what number it was, but shout out to James from the 46 of 46 podcast. He's into the cryptoteeology and Bigfoots and things like that. But his main focus is a hiking podcast. But my main thing, I was listening to this gentleman's video, and the whooping sounded a little distant, but anybody that gets like a adrenaline rush in their voice, hunters do this quite a bit. If they take an animal and they'll call their buddies up, and their octave of their voice instantly changes once their hunt is successful. And in this video, I'm listening to this guy talk, and he's trying to whoop back this thing or whatever, and his voice instantly changed, and that, to me, that says it's something. There's a real deal. There's some real fear he's feeling right there, whether it's the whooping or the situation or whatever's going on. So that kind of puts it, in a perspective that possibly something's really going on out there as far as that goes. But other than that, in the area, we've had the war came through here years ago, so there's a lot of Indian graves, things like that. Some paranormal things. But it's an interesting area. There's definitely between here and the Canadian border, there's definitely some things going on, and farther south of here towards the Catskill Mountains. So it's definitely an interesting area to live in, and if you're into history and possible Squatch stuff, you got the Adirondack Park alone, 6 million acres of exploration you can do, and go lose yourself in there and see what you can find if that's what you're into.
We will be right back after this brief commercial break. But just a quick reminder, if you guys want to stay up to date on the show, you guys can always go and follow Inquiries of Our Reality and Open Minds Media on Instagram, Facebook, Discord, YouTube, and TikTok. Now feel free to fast forward through these commercials so we can hop right back into the show. And we are back, so let's get back to it. I mean, as far as the Sasquatch stuff goes too, it seems like depending on the area, and it may have to do with like different groups of Sasquatch, different tribes or whatever, but it seems like you kind of get either like more aggressive ones that are a little bit more curious, ones that just kind of want to keep people out of the area. And it seems like a semi-commonplace that most people that I talk to from New York, when they have experiences with Sasquatch, it seems to be more of the trying to get them out of the area. Like you mentioned, people get paced out, there's rock throwing and stuff, but it doesn't seem like a lot of violent encounters come out of New York, and it also doesn't seem like there's a lot of those like really curious encounters. It seems like 99% of the encounters I get are a matter of like, they don't necessarily want to be aggressive, but they want people out of their area. And tell me if you kind of feel the same as far as like some of the encounters you've heard.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I haven't heard anything violent. I know that, again, with the 46 of 46 podcast, he had James as the man that runs it, and his good friend Jonathan is a avid hiker and a peak bagger. So he's in these mountains all the time. He has the fastest known time on trail up in that area. I mean, this kid he's out there. He'll go, from sun up to the next morning, trying to make fastest known times on these trails. So he's out in the woods late at night. And he actually had rocks thrown in front of him at about 3 a.m, and it was very close to this spot where this guy just had the whooping happen. So kind of interesting, but nothing violent. Like I said, I've been paralleled, a few times, things like that, and I've had some trees fall around me. I've heard wood knocks. Again, I don't go looking for this stuff, but it just seems to happen. So if it's there, why not check into it and see what I'm hearing, or what's going on with it, and try to make sense of it all.
So I guess it might be a good spot to start with Sasquatch. I know that you mentioned that they've had some other encounters in this area, but and then we're definitely going to have to dive into those, because I know you also mentioned something with possibly seeing some UFOs and stuff. But since we're already on the topic of Sasquatch, you'll have to go over some of your recent Sasquatch encounters, because I know it's been a long time since you've been on the show. I'm sure you've had a lot more experiences over the past couple of years, so I'd like to kind of get up to speed with you a bit.
All right, so this one, I guess we'll go here first. My most recent experience, I was on a 6-day trek through the mountains. I'm on the Northville Placid Trail. It's a trail. It's 138 miles long. It runs basically from one end of the park to the other, from south to north. So basically follows the most outback country territory of the park. There's, you cross the road 4 times on this trail if you through hike the whole thing. I was about, let's say 3 or 4 days in. So I'm, probably at least 15 to 20 miles from any road. And we come to a lean-to, which is a shelter. Basically a little house that has 3 sides, no front on it.
Those things are pretty cool. I don't see any of those in Michigan. So when you first sent me a picture of those, I was like, damn, that's really cool that they do something like that. Because, I've never been on a hiking trail in Michigan or any of the places, weirdly enough, that I've been that actually have those shelters. But that'd be so convenient to not have to set up a tent and just be able to camp out in this thing with a sleeping bag and call it a night.
There's a lot of them, all over the Adirondack Park. And the thing is, it's first come, first serve. They'll sleep up to 8 people. So if you're on a lot of times people hike into the night, they'll come in at, if I get to a lean-to at 6 at night, I could have a guy show up or a lady, 8, 9 o'clock at night. They got their headlamp on. They've been hiking 20 miles or something. And, you're supposed to be a good human, let them in, make room for them. So if you got room to let them in, to camp out with you. So, ironically, you're sleeping in the same building or on the same floor with somebody you just met for 15 minutes and you're going to bed.
Are these things actually about the size of like an actual cabin, or are they like a bit smaller? Just out of curiosity.
They're probably about the size of almost the size of a 1-stall garage. stall, I would say. They're probably 12 by 14, something like that.
So you got a little bit of room then. Even if somebody had to
do.
sleep in there, you can make a little bit of space. It's not like you guys are going to be back to back or nothing.
You do. And this last occurrence, so this was in early September, so pretty recent. We got to this lean-to, and it was a short day. I think we only hiked like 6 miles. So we had some time to spend. So we're basically, there's lean-tos like every 6 to 10 miles. There's a lean-to where you can camp. It's usually on a lake, on a river, on a pond, something like that.
Do they have the cool little pre-made like fire pits and stuff too? So when you come up, you can just get a fire going and everything?
Yep, the fire pit is there. Actually, people are pretty cool, and I try to do it too when I'm out. I bring a bow saw with me, and it's kind of a good gesture to cut some wood if you have time to leave it underneath the lean-to in case somebody gets there and it's raining or snowing. They can start a fire instantly without having to scrounge for wood and dry wood in the woods. It's all tucked under dry. So basically, any of these lean-tos you get to, and it's all just people in the community. It's not state isn't doing it or anything. It's just hikers or whatever will pack wood under there. So yeah, if you get there in the rain, 90% of the time there's gonna be something to burn, some birch bark, some twigs, some bigger logs to get a fire going and warm up. So it's just kind of a nice gesture everybody does. But there is fire pits there. A lot of them have privies, which is an outhouse, or they have a rumble box, which is a really unique experience because it's basically a wooden box. It's 2 foot by 2 foot with a toilet seat on it, and it's in the middle of the woods. So, you can do your business in the morning and have the best view in the world.
I was just about to say, at least you get a good view while you're doing your business, right?
Yeah.
Got to put it on the side of a mountainside so you can just overlook everything.
Yeah. Some of them look lakes. Some of them are a little close to the trail. So, this far back country, you could go 5-6 days and see 3 people. But if it's close to a trail and you're doing your morning business, you had some coffee and got things moving, and also here comes some hikers down the trail, just, hey, how's it going? Just keep walking, sitting there. What are you gonna do? Everybody does it. So does a bear shed in the woods? Yes, he does.
You just got to be as polite as possible the whole time they pass by, and just make sure they see you waving. And you want some coffee?
Yeah, sometimes you surprise me. They give them a little jump scare you, jump at them a little bit. And,
hey, they might help out a little bit, though, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because people are out there, their own, especially on trail, they're in their own little world. And they're just watching a trail, enjoying the nature, and not really looking around for things like that. And then you walk up on a rumble box, thunder box. So yeah, it makes things interesting, but it makes life fun, and you get some stories to tell too. So what the hell? Why not?
Ain't that the truth? But I mean, as far as kind of getting back to the story a bit, and I'm already kind of like wondering in general if you've maybe heard anybody talk about any stories of experiencing any Sasquatch activity while in one of these things, because I feel like this might be like a prime location for their curiosity. If you're, sleeping in here, they might be able to make a little bit of noise on the roof, peek around the outside edge. Like, I'm curious if anybody has any stories about that.
I do have a story with that. My own story, but we'll do that after this first story, my last recent experience. So we got to the lean-to, and it's 3 in the afternoon, whatever. And so I take a walk around the lean-to. Everybody takes their packs off. There was 7 of us, I believe. I had my family with us or with me, and my friend's daughter and another friend came with us. And we get to the lean-to. Everybody takes their packs off. We're grabbing a little snack, a little trail mix, just talking and stuff. I walk out behind the lean-to, taking inventory of the place, see if there's some wood laying around, and I see this. This is what got me going with the Adirondack Bigfoot, which I found his channel by accident. I found this spruce tree behind the lean-to, and it's a grassy area. There's all short spruce trees around it. There's this one big spruce tree. It's probably, I don't know, 40 feet tall. It's 9 inches across the stump of it. And this thing is snapped off about 12 feet in the air, like snapped off, and the wood is splintered, sticking out. And then the root ball, I also took a picture of, and I can send you pictures of this stuff. The root ball is actually out of the ground a quarter of the way. So I work with my hands, and I work with tools, and I work with steel structures and all that stuff. So I'm putting my brain to it, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, somebody had to either climb this thing or throw a rope with a rock around it to the top and drag it, put some weight on to snap it halfway, or something push this thing that's very tall. I didn't I was kind of alarmed by it because there was nothing around it that fell. There was no big trees. There's no hardwoods. It's all coniferous. So I'm checking this thing out. I'm like, this is very interesting. I don't know if I want to stay here tonight, but we're stuck here. This is where we're staying. So I turn around and there's a trail, another hiking trail that leaves the lean-to. It's kind of like a center point where a few trails converge. And I look down the trail, and there are several spruce trees that are down across the trail, like both directions, like this. They're just dropped across the, like something doesn't want anybody to go down
The
that
typical
trail.
Sasquatch thing where they try to block
Yes,
off a trail just because they hope people won't end up climbing through it.
And I didn't say nothing to anybody to lean to. They think I'm a little crazy anyway, probably. But I hike with a sidearm. And it's usually in my pack just in case I got a little girl to take care of and protecting things. And I slept with my sidearm under my pillow that night.
It's kind of ironic, just to point it out, that for anybody that thinks Sasquatch stories are crazy. I mean, obviously you're not in the right place if you think Sasquatch stories are crazy if you're listening to this podcast right now. But, some of the people that end up having the most prolific experiences or really get into the Sasquatch stuff are the people that spend the most time out in the woods. So you'd assume that if there was nothing there, the people that spend the most time out in the woods would confirm that there's nothing there. But you get the opposite. The people that spend the most time out in the woods are the ones saying that they know something's out there. So, I mean, that kind of shows kind of a ratio there that, some of the most interesting Sasquatch experiences end up coming from hunters, which again are people that are spending endless amounts of time out in the woods. So again, if there wasn't something out there, then why are all these people that spend their lives in the woods reporting things?
Right. I had a conversation actually today with a gentleman. I was working at his place doing some work, and he's like, well, don't you think it's odd that they never find a dead Sasquatch in the woods if this is for real, or they don't, they never find them floating in a pond dead or in a swampy area or anything like that. I'm like, well, yeah, it is odd, but how many people find a dead black bear in the woods? Or
It's a buffet. It's an all-you-can-eat buffet for everything around. So I mean, if something big drops, everything around is eating it.
Yeah, something's except for a cat. Nothing eats a cat. You ever see a cat inside the road, and the birds don't even touch it.
See, I've always heard that they're infested with with different types of worms and parasites and all that kind of stuff because of what they get into. So I mean,
Yeah,
maybe
possibly.
scavengers, but most stuff is probably But I've also kind of heard the same for bears, because I've heard people can't eat bears because they're, littered with worms and parasites. But I've never tried to eat a bear, so I don't know for sure. But
My brother-in-laws they bear hunt, they eat the bears. But one actually got a real bad dose of Lyme disease from one, so he was pretty crippled up for a long time. But it's their sport, and that's what they do. But so I'm looking at the situation at the lean-to, and I'm not talking to anybody. I'm a little racked up about it. And when I was doing John's show on Internet Bigfoot, he's asked me, do you think that is this something for you? And I'm like, no, but I think it was probably a week old, this tree and the break and everything. The pine needles are still on the tree. It's pretty fresh. So I go, it's definitely for somebody that may have been there, or maybe somebody was there and left. And maybe I believe that, the Bigfoot is a watcher of the forest. So somebody was being there, if somebody was there and being, not really conservation minded, who knows, people do weird shit. So, maybe it pissed one off and it was kind of marking its territory. They wouldn't know if, the same person's coming back or not, that they're just there for a night. But
I mean, on the other side too, if somebody was coming up the trail and they didn't want them to go down that path, they could have broke that off. That was a week prior, and then you came up to it later on. It may not have been necessarily that anybody was doing anything bad, but just they knew somebody was coming up the trail, so they blocked it off, and it was already blocked off by the time you got there.
Yeah. And it was definitely nothing that was directed towards me or at my family. But, seeing something like that doesn't, it's really hard to comprehend, what happened there. Unless somebody, brought some rope and went way back in the woods just to pull a tree over and snap it off at 12 feet and then keep pulling on it so it came out of the ground a little bit. I don't know.
See, people's reasoning for stuff like that almost sounds more ridiculous than it being Sasquatch. Because you hear this all the time where people will try to come up with this. But it's the chain of events that it would take for that to happen almost seem more ridiculous than it just being the possibility of something that's unexplained out in the woods. Because it's like, even like, you know, the weird stick structures you see that are just out in the middle of absolute nowhere. And people are like, oh, it must be teenage kids. It's like, okay, so a teenage kid hiked 2 days out into the woods to build a structure to mess with people and then leave. Like, it doesn't make sense. Maybe by like the outsides of the park where they're just messing around, you know, but they're not going to go that far in just to mess with people. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
That's a lot of effort.
Exactly. It's a lot of effort just for a joke that you wouldn't even get to see the outcome of, you know?
Exactly. Well, maybe they're a hermit in the woods screwing around with people and they're there watching it. You just don't know it.
Hey, on the other side, though, if I was a hermit, I would definitely be building Sasquatch structures all over my area. But on the other side, though, you know, you may scare people away that aren't into this stuff. But in turn, the people who are into this stuff, you're now going to make your spot a target that all the squatchers are going to come in. And they're just going to find your hermit ass sitting in the middle of the woods somewhere one day, like, whoops.
Yeah, shit backfired.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back. But before we get into this commercial break, if anybody is interested in supporting the show or any of the work I do over here, you guys can go and check out the OMM Patreon. Over there is 7-day free trials available for all of the tiers, and it is constantly updating with new shows and different stuff going on. You guys can also go and check out the OMM merch store, constantly getting updated with new designs, not just pertaining to the podcast themselves, but also cryptid, paranormal, and extraterrestrial related designs. And the third way you guys can support the show, if you guys think I deserve it, is that you guys can leave a 5-star review or rating for the show on iTunes or Spotify. And if you guys leave a 5-star review, of course, I will read it on the show and give you guys a big shout out. Now let's get to the commercial break so we can hop back in the show. And we are back. So let's hop right in.
But this, you were asking about, has anybody had an experience in one of these lean-tos at night? So I shared this story on your the last time we'd spoken on the pod, but I was at a place that's it's central Adirondacks, actually a little south of central, but it's very desolate. We're camping out got to a lean-to camp out for the night. Pretty short day. And I went to gather some firewood, and there's, I think, 7 of 8 of us again, and the kids are young, you know, they're at that time, they're all, you know, under 15. There's 4 of them there running around, and I had my father-in-law with me, my wife, and everybody's noisy, you know, we're at camp. My son's fishing in the river, and so everything's status quo. I won't go into the whole story, but
if you want to get into the whole story, that's totally okay too. It's been so long since you've told this story on the show that I'm sure there's new listeners. Some people may not go back and listen to previous episodes, so feel free to start wherever you want with the story.
So we got there. So this site, as soon as you get there, it's got a very strange feeling, and I'm very comfortable in the woods, man. I'm society crashes tomorrow. I'm heading out. I'm good. I got a ton of experience. I can handle myself. Like
90% of the time I end up texting you, you're out in the woods somewhere, if that says anything.
Yeah. That's my happy place, you know. Totally comfortable out there. This spot you get to, and it's very just a weird feeling there. Almost, it's like a pressure, or you're being watched. So this was the first night of a several-day hike. So I go out to get some firewood. I grab my bow saw. I take a walk, 50 feet from the lean-to probably. And I'm sawing some deadfall or spruce, it's laying all over the ground there. There's some stuff to burn for a fire for later. And all of a sudden I notice that I can't hear anything around me. I can hear my feet, my steps, but I can't hear the river, and I cannot hear the people at the lean-to, and I'm disoriented. I can't figure out where I am and which direction to go back to the lean-to, and using the creek as your guide, I'm pretty close to the creek. I can hear it. Some parts I could see it, and the creek wasn't there, and I felt like I was in a bubble. This lasted about 10 minutes, and I'm not running around. I'm just kind of looking around, taking inventory. I'm like, what's going on? I thought I was having a stroke or something. And this is our first day in. I'm not dehydrated. I'm not hungry. There's nothing like out of the ordinary. So I kind of snap out of it after a few minutes, and I wander back to lean-to, and I'm like, geez, that was strange. So I brought my wood back that I got back to the lean-to, and we enjoyed the rest of our day. We made some dinner, ate dinner, My father-in-law and I, this is at the same place. We go to hang our bear bag, which is a bag. It's like a mesh bag that you put your food in, and you throw a rope over a tree branch, like 20 feet off the ground, 10 feet out from a tree, so the bear can't get your food at nighttime. So this is our first night of our trip for 7 or 8 people, whatever it was. So there's quite a bit of food there. It's a heavy bag. So I bring him up with me. I tie a rope to a stick. I throw it up over the branch. We're hoisting the bag up. We hear a big crash up behind us, probably 50 feet away in the woods. It's very thick hardwood and coniferous forest in that area. Well, that's strange. That was a tree just fell over. And he's like, yeah, that's kind of weird. It hadn't rained for probably 2 weeks. It was a calm night. This is just a golden hour just before the sun goes down. You want to get up there, get some things done before it gets dark. We continue on our business. We put the bag up in a tree, pull it up, tie it off, and just walking away, another tree falls. Like, these are good sized trees, they're nothing small by the sounds of them. So I'm like, that is very strange. He goes, what do you think's causing that? I go, I have no idea. So we go back to lean to, and at this lean to, I did talk about this in the last episode, that I had kind of a dream. I was sleeping and I was kind of awake, almost like an out of body experience, kind of thinking about it now. But I remember like waking up, but not waking up in the middle of the night. And there was a figure standing in front of this lean to, because it's 3 walls with a roof and the front is wide open. And I'm like in my, like outside of my body looking at this thing or whatever. It's like a whitish, like a 3 foot tall whitish blob, not like a human or like, a gray alien. It's just kind of a weird presence. I couldn't make it out. And without talking to me, he was asking me if it was okay that they were there watching us. And I, just fell back asleep. And I was like, I don't even know what the hell's going on right now.
It almost seemed like a spirit or something almost. Like what kind of like energy did you get from it? Was it like a positive or a negative type of thing?
No, it was definitely friendly but menacing at the same time.
Almost like a trickster kind of feel to it.
Yeah, type of weird, yeah. But this is all, so I don't know if this is in my head or whatever happened there.
I mean, you said this area has a lot of history too, so I mean that's why I was kind of wondering if it may have been something a little bit more on the spiritual side of, like, even just Native American spiritual out in the middle of the woods,
It could be, and there's many old hunting camps and old logging camps back in there. There's machinery that are in the forest that are, way off a trail. There's pulleys and tracks from excavation equipment. There's, there's stuff that's littered around in the woods if you look for it. But the funny thing is, I was on John's show, The Adirondack Bigfoot, and he put on YouTube, and a gentleman was actually the first person that posted on it, that he had the same exact experience at the same exact spot, that he was walking around. I think he was hiking and he might have been looking for wood or whatever he was doing, but he was right in that area, and he had the same experience where he kind of like blanked out and just kind of was disoriented and kind of lost for a minute, although he knew right where he was. And he had his dog with him, and he said his dog just sat still and whatever. And then once everything cleared, the dog kind of showed him the way back to the trailer to lead to wherever he was going. But it was basically it's all within a square half mile of where I had my experience. So that kind of leads me to believe that there's something maybe paranormal, supernatural, not possibly Bigfoot related, but
I mean, you kind of mentioned
kind of energy.
Yeah, I was gonna say it kind of almost kind of feels like something a little bit more like tricksterish. Or I know you didn't mention anything about like little people or anything, but it kind of reminds me of kind of like how people would describe experiences with like puckwudgies or something like that. Like it just seems like there's some type of trickster and or fae type being there, and however you kind of want to like differentiate fae. I mean, I definitely kind of associate like woodland type spirits with that also, like so, or they're earth or natural earth type spirits. I definitely feel like that could have been it. And kind of getting into like the trickster side of them, I don't necessarily think that when it comes to those ones being a trickster, that it's necessarily that they want to hurt somebody like you often hear with like the little people and stuff, but rather that it's just trying to get you out of the area because they want you just to get away from its area that it's trying to protect.
Yeah. So
But it doesn't necessarily want anything bad to happen to you. Just you be out of that area.
yeah, there's definitely something going on in that area. So this kind of comes a little bit around. So we left the next morning, and my father-in-law and I went to the area where we think the trees fell, and we ended up finding two, probably 12-inch across a stump silver maple trees. These are good sized trees. They got a big root system, uprooted, and those were the two trees that fell. And they're fresh, they're green trees. They weren't dead. So we traveled out of the area, and when we got probably a mile out of the area, all that feeling went away, and it was back to normal. So I had told a friend of mine about it, and he's just getting into the Squatch stuff. He's like, "Oh, I want to go see something. I want to go see something." So he's hell bent determined. He's out in the woods. He's always looking around, and like I told him, I said, dude, don't look for the stuff like it. Just it'll happen if it's going to happen. I go, you go searching for shit. You're in their living room, man, and they're if they want to show themselves, or something will happen, it'll happen. But he
Assumably, these things always know when you're in the woods. Like they know that you're there from a distance. It's almost like you walking into somebody's front door. Like they're going to know you're there even if you don't know that they're there.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's their home. They know what's going on. I mean, so this guy, I mean, he's a big dude. He's like 6'3", 6'4", just a brute of a man. So he texts me. He's like, "Where was this place you were telling me about where I had the experience and the weird feeling and shit?" And he's like, "There's got to be something going on there. We'll go check it out, camp out." So I told him about it. He went and checked it out, and he said he got there and he was so overwhelmed with just weirdness and like pressure and just a feeling of like not supposed to be there. He turned around and he booked it out of there, went back to his truck and came home.
See, I almost wonder if this area could potentially, since you kind of brought up that other thing, otherwise I would have kind of assumed that it may have been more of the like infrared or the infrasound Sasquatch type of experience. But,
yeah.
When you get to these certain places that are in the middle of the woods, though, I almost kind of feel like people always talk about the veil thinning or like these portal locations. And assumably, if there is a portal location, there is going to be a change in air pressure, a change in density in the air, a change in just the energy and atmosphere of the area because it's being disrupted by something going on in that area. So kind of linking it to something a little bit more paranormal, I wonder if this may be one of those particular areas and, Sasquatchers are just kind of associating it with infrasound and going out there looking for Squatch, but they're, messing with something a little bit on a different spectrum than what they're expecting.
Yeah, potentially dangerous. I mean, it kind of makes sense. The river, the area's a nice rolling woods, and that river is, it's a beautiful river. It's probably 4 feet deep, 20 feet wide, and it's gentle. I mean, it's a nice water source. There's my son caught a couple of trout in there, so let's turn the clocks back, a little bit and think about what was there before now. Was that a place where there's a civilization? Was there an Indian battle? Is this paranormal? Is there spirit? Is there, what do you call it when there's a memory, like a memory of time, something that happened there?
I mean, it could have been sacred ground too, and it was sacred to the people that were, involved, the Native Americans. But when other people come in, it's not their sacred ground, so it tries to like reject them away from it, even though it is a beautiful place.
Exactly, and I've talked to a few other hikers. I'm pretty connected in the hiking community up here in the Adirondack Park, and a lot of people say the same thing about that area. It's just a weird, eerie place. Everything in that area is very strange. Like you always get a weird feeling, and then you hike a mile either direction, and your coast is clear and it's clear sailing, and you're back to feeling normal again. So yeah, could be spiritual, not necessarily squatchy, but definitely I would say, especially after somebody had the same experience I did, like to a T within the same area. 100 years ago they put these lean-tos in. What happened 200 years ago? Was there a settlement? Was there a burial ground? Is there a burial ground there? Who knows? Anything's possible, I guess, but something is definitely off and lingering in that area.
I wonder if you could look into like the planning for the park and see if maybe there was something particular in that area. Like, when they had the map planned out to build the lean-tos or something there, if there may have been aware of the fact that maybe there may have been a burial mound or something over in that area. Like, I'm curious if you dig back in the information, if you might be able to find some type of smoking gun as to like what could potentially be going on in that area, because it definitely seems like it's kind of a smorgasbord of things, and a lot of people kind of either get into the more interdimensional Bigfoot, kind of believe that these areas are kind of just like a like a vacuum for like all phenomenon all happening all at once. And I mean,
Sure.
this could potentially be one of those areas, you have to do a little bit maybe different investigation where, you've had a lot of squatchers and stuff go out there, but you have to go out there with a group where, one person's a paranormal investigator, one of them is a Sasquatch investigator, maybe even have somebody that's a medium and see, if different groups of people kind of pick up different stuff when they're kind of going into it without, even better, even if they kind of go into it without necessarily knowing all of the background, and you just kind of get what feel they get from it all on their own without anybody kind of putting any thoughts into their head about it.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
You just got to bring a group, say, I got a spot, and just as soon as you get to the area,
see how
just turn and look at them. Don't say anything to them. If they seem like they're looking around and like they kind of feel like something's off, then you'll know that there's definitely something to it if people have that feeling with no context.
Everybody I talk to gets a feeling in that area, so I don't, something going on. But like I was going to say, I think I sent it to you after the last pod. Actually, I think it was about a year ago that I found this Bigfoot research map. I guess it is. It's online. It's Bigfoot sightings, and they put like a little squatch on the map or whatever. And then
is it Bigfoot Mapping Project?
Yes.
Yep. I would say I got the app for that.
Okay, of course you do. So I'm not a big computer guy or an app guy. I literally.
It's convenient on your phone though when you're on a hike because you can bring it up, you can GPS your location, and then it'll bring it to where you're at, and you can kind of see around you if there's sightings. So that's the only reason I end up getting the app is just for the sake of doing that.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to look at. I kind of stumbled upon that by accident, and I believe I screenshot it and sent it to you. That lead-to that location, there was a sighting in the 1991, I believe, of an actual Bigfoot sighting at that lean-to. They put a little squatch right where the lean-to is. So I'm like, so maybe a portal type of deal, who the hell knows? But the portal, the portal and the time, I think these things don't run parallel with us. I think they're in and out. And if they just show up, who knows if they're, nobody really knows, I guess. But and my thought is, and this is gonna lead to my next little story here, but who knows if their time isn't linear with us and they got a way to travel quicker but be aware of where they're going or go where they want to go.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back. And we are back, so let's hop right in.
See, I've kind of wondered kind of on that same line of thought, if time isn't necessarily linear and all time is happening all at once, maybe you get glimpses into other times happening at once, and their time could be existing over our time, but if you're looking at it from like our perspective, it would be in the past, but you're still seeing these like reflections of them that seem very physical now because, our view of time is that it's a line, but in the grand scheme of the universe, there's a good chance that like time could just be basically be overlaying itself.
Right. And that makes perfect sense until they start throwing rocks. So
hey, they might be seeing reflections of you too. I mean, who knows what their perspective might be? This is kind of the same with like the paranormal stuff. It's like, I wonder if, you see a ghost, but on the other side, if there's something more physical and they see you as a ghost, like I'm curious what the perspective might be on that.
God, can you only imagine unlocking that key?
But assumably, if you're seeing these things physical and it is something to do with time like that, they're probably going to see you the same way that you perceive them. So, if you they look physical to you, you're going to be physical to them too.
Man, this could you could deep dive this thing real quick.
Don't get me into the weird theories. I'll start going off of a whole tangent.
We're going weird. We got some time. Let's get weird. So the time thing. So this John guy, I brought him into. He wants to go. He started up like squatch hunting. He's very interested in it, and he got talking to him online here and there. Talked to him on the phone a couple times. I'm like, this dude seems pretty legit. He's not full of shit. So I said, dude, if you want to come like in the woods, I go, I'm not going out looking for this shit with you, but if you want to go in somewhere like that's desolate, I'll bring you in and you can look around. I'll sit at camp and have a little fire and a coffee and I'm good to go. So we ended up.
I'm base camp.
Yeah, I'm base camp. Yeah, you want to go look for that shit, so knock yourself out.
Got to have somebody watch base camp.
Yeah.
The job needs to get done, so I might as well do it.
That's right. Somebody's got to be there. So I bring him up there, and he's looking around and just kind of, looking at shit. And he's like, "How you feeling?" And I'm like, he kind of thinks like this shit's like drawn to me for some reason because I have these experiences. And his philosophy is, you can't have a gun with you. You can't have any bad intent. Well, I always carry a gun with me in the woods. a sidearm, and I have zero bad intent to hurt anything, man. I'm a pretty gentle giant.
I kind of wonder if it's doesn't even necessarily matter about the firearm, but it's just kind of like a good analogy is like dogs can sense people. It doesn't matter, if they're wearing a hat, if they're not wearing a hat. It's like they can sense like somebody's intention. So I kind of feel like it's the same for these, because you'll hear people that'll say never go out with a gun, they won't end up coming out. But then on the other side, it's like people regularly go out and always have a pistol on them or some kind of something on them. And it's like, I think it's just they have the ability to kind of like sense your intention with it, because even if you have a gun and you're saying like, oh, I would never bring this out on the Sasquatch, like I'm curious if they would be able to be like, all right, there's something off with this guy, maybe you should just avoid him. And this guy, he's only got that to protect himself from other predators. Like he's not going to intend to use that on us.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. You got Brian here bumbling through the woods at 6'1" and 300 pounds with a sidearm. I mean, and I still have these experiences, so I don't know how well that I think the intent that they feel is what will make anything like that happen to you, where they'll show themselves or whatever.
And you're also a semi-regular too. So, I mean, if they're seeing you all the time, they're potentially watching you from a distance. They see how you are all the other times you're in the woods. They know that you're not one that's going to, pull that thing the second you hear a sound,
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we know him. He's that big guy that left the real bad number 2 last Saturday up there. But, so I bring John up in the woods, check things out. And we're doing a destination. It's about a mile and a half to a lake. It's desolate. It's pretty near me. We go up in there, and don't you know, the first thing we get, he's like looking around and shit. Like we're on the lake, and I said, well, the campsite's just on the other side there. There's no lean-to or nothing. There's a fire pit. So I said, well, campsite's right up here. You can see the trail. It's obvious. So I said, just maybe up there and get up there. I'll get a little fire going. We'll get some coffee going for us or whatever. And he's meandering about, and he's got a drone. He puts that up, just looking for shit and whatever. And I get to the campsite, and this tree that I just saw on my hike that was snapped off 12 feet in the air and pulled up in the roots a little bit is the same exact thing going on at this campsite. So I yelled to him, like, John, you ain't gonna freaking believe this. He comes up to Troy. He's like, what's up? I said, that tree I was telling you about behind the lean-to a couple weeks ago when I was hiking? He goes, yeah. I go, look at this. And I frequent this spot, and the last time, probably a month ago, I was in there, it was not like that. And we've had up here, we've had zero rain in probably 2 months. We've had a little sprinkles here and there, but we're very dry right now. This tree was same thing, snapped 12 feet in the air, roughly, splintered out, and pulled up by the roots a little bit. He's like, you kidding me? I'm like, yeah, like what the hell? So along with the portal thing, so he's from where he is to where he lives from where we were, about a 2-hour drive for him. So he brings an apple, like a gift apple. Like I don't know how much I'm gonna believe in this shit. I'm like, I don't know, you put something there, they put something, they take it, they put something there.
It seems like apples seem to be a common thing with Sasquatch, though. Even people saying that like they'll take them all from the tree, and they'll do this weird thing where they'll like take them all from the top and be like, all right, the ones on the bottom are for you. I'll take these ones up here.
Yep. So,
but whatever reason, Sasquatch seems to be drawn to apples. Like I don't know what it is.
I'm sure he's researched the shit out of this stuff, and I don't. But so he puts this apple on a tree. We leave, whatever. He's like, "You think we're going to leave that there?" I said, yeah, it's just an apple. It's fine. So take off. We hike out. We shoot the shit on the way out. He's taking some pictures and things like that, and he put some trail cams up, took those down. Get to the trucks. We say our goodbyes, whatever, and we text here and there. A couple days later. 2 days later, he texts me at, I think it was like 5:30 in the morning with a picture of an apple in his driveway. And he's 2 hours from where we are. There's an apple on a blacktop driveway, and his house is surrounded by maple trees. There's no apple trees in the area. And like a store-bought apple, what he bought, and it was like half smashed in the end of his driveway on the blacktop. He took a picture and sent it to me. I'm like, shit, like, what if? And he's like, yeah, what if, right? I just, I wish there was a way to mark it. Maybe it was the same apple, who knows? But it was kind of crazy. And like I said, I don't, I'm not going to deal with anybody who I don't trust, and I think they're full of shit. Like, I think this guy's pretty legit. And for that to happen, I mean, he didn't just set it there and take a picture and say, oh, look at this, look what this, the apple came, they brought it back to me or whatever. But
how far did you say he was from the original location?
He's in Lake George.
So, like, how far was it? Just out of curiosity, did you say?
He's 2 hours from where we were, southern Adirondacks.
So it's a pretty good distance then. It's
He's
not.
a 2 hour drive. Yeah.
So that's kind of where you kind of have to get into. I mean, take into consideration the possibility of this thing actually like following, but that's a bit of a crazy distance. So either one, it's either just a coincidence, which I mean, definitely a possibility. But on the other side, if you get into the more quantum Bigfoot, then that would be the only explanation. If again, it was the exact same apple.
Yeah. So is this the case of somebody's driving by and just tossed an apple they didn't take a bite out of it. It was a full apple. And it was just half squished on the ground. I'll send you a picture. It's kind of interesting. But to travel that distance in 2 days by foot, it's not going to happen. He's in the Adirondack Park where he is. So technically is all connected by woods. You could get through there without crossing any, populated areas, but, fuck, man, I don't know. What if,
I mean, who knows how fast these things could potentially move through the woods too? Because I mean, people kind of see a quick glimpse of them, but nobody's ever been able to see how fast these things are able to potentially move if they had a mission and they were heading for a particular location.
Oh, I'm sure they can move along, but man, I don't think you could trail run in 2 days. And through, what they call bushwhacking, there's no trail, there's no herd path, there's no road. You're not running through a clear area. I mean, this forest is thick, there's swamps and, all kinds of shit in there. You'd have to go around to get through. I don't know. It kind of makes me think about the time travel thing. If they can not time travel, but travel through time at their own will and know where they're going. I'm like, this is it's kind of rewarding if it is actual and whatever. But like I said, I don't think he's full of shit. Whether it's somebody it fell off the back of somebody's car that would put on their roof for breakfast in the morning and forgot it, and they got in their car and it happened to roll off and land in the middle of his driveway, or there's something else at work here, I guess.
I mean, I would definitely at least attempt to test the theory because I mean, it's gonna be one of those things that lingers in your head forever. Is it actually something or is it just a weird coincidence? But I mean, like you said, you have to find a way to maybe mark the apple or to use a particular type of apple just out of curiosity. If there's, for example, bring a yellow apple or something like that. Right. If a yellow apple shows up in a driveway, how frequently do you really see people eating yellow apples? They're common, but they're not that common that you see people eating them all the time. So, I mean, you have to try something just out of curiosity,
Yeah. And the thing was, it was up in his driveway. It wasn't at the end where the sidewalk would be. It was up in there ways. So, I mean, who the hell knows? It's kind of really made me think. And like I said, I don't think the guy's full of shit. I think he's legit. He's looking. I don't think he's looking to build a name for himself as much as he's trying to find answers for himself. And, he just started a community up here to try to get people to talk about their stories, without being, without prejudice, and share their experiences. And it just seems like the more, as you said earlier, kind of out your ways, everything's dying off in this subject. And up here, it seems to be popping off. Everybody's talking about, everybody's walking around with Bigfoot shirts and stickers and just, plywood cutouts of black Bigfoots on everybody's lawns. What the hell is going on? Why is this a marketing thing, or is it an actual thing where people are seeing shit or hearing shit or having experiences and they're just kind of, buying into it?
I mean, I definitely think it's multifaceted because at least that whole opinion wasn't necessarily me. That was Larry Beans Baxter talking about on Bizarre Encounters, kind of feeling like he's kind of seeing the research die off. But at least for me, I mean, Sasquatch is always going to be my favorite cryptid to dive into, my favorite experiences to hear about. So it hasn't died down at all for me. And as far as an upspike goes, I mean, I've definitely seen a lot of people recently that are starting to, I don't know if they believe in the phenomenon necessarily or they just the symbol of it, but I see a lot of Sasquatch stickers on people's cars near the Detroit area, which it wouldn't be connected with encounters because it's all city. There's not really anywhere for anything to really be over here. And I mean, either one, it's that people are experiencing something. Two, people actually want to grasp and believe in something. Or on the other side, people just like the character itself, or it inspires them to want to be out in the woods. Cause it seems like nowadays, people are kind of moving away from, the whole idea of wanting to be in a city, live in society like that. Like most people, or at least most people I come across now, it seems like they want to kind of move out into the country, be in the woods, be all this kind of stuff. So maybe it's also just kind of a symbol of that, of just being free. So, I mean, I don't know. I've seen a lot more Sasquatch symbology on everything, but whether or not people believe in it is completely up to me. I'm not 100% sure, but I definitely do see a lot.
Yeah, that you know, it's a new wave of homesteading. You know, these generations that are coming out. You know, they're a little bit screwed up, but some of them are. And our parents said the same thing about us. So what do we know? You know, they seem to be skipping all the fancy toys and shit, and they're going right to buying a piece of land and building a homestead on it. Or they're buying an old bus or a camper. Like it's this whole new movement kind of thing that's coming out, which is, you know, it's good for people to unplug and, you know, learn how to live life without everyday conveniences and, you know, things like that. I mean, what do you do if you know, the lights go out? I mean, these people can't live without internet. Half these, you know, businesses, they have internet down for a day. It's a major catastrophe and a problem. Nobody can do their work without the internet. And, you know, if you're not sucked into that vacuum and you know how to do things on your own and work with your hands and build that sense of community, you'll be fine. So for some reason, they're all, you know, all the younger generation seems to be going to that. Some of my generation too have just, you know, had enough and keep it up to the Joneses and say, what the hell, why are we doing this for? Why don't we just live small and live our lives and enjoy it while we're here, you know?
See, I think it's like a multifaceted thing too on that, because I feel like after, you know, the thing that happened a couple of years ago, you know, a lot more people kind of started to drift away from like wanting to be part of like normal society. And then on the other side of it too, it's like times are getting tough. Everybody knows that. Like everybody is having trouble. They're struggling. So it's like trying to be minimal is better, because then it's less stuff to pay for. And when you get out in the woods and you just start enjoying the woods, you know, you're not paying to go out to a bar every night. You're not paying to go to some museum or go to whatever in the city all the time. So it kind of pulls away from having to spend more money. So I kind of wonder if the other side of it is just as times get tougher, people kind of push away from that because they can't afford all of the extra extremities, where, you know, I feel like when times are good, people will probably gravitate more towards the city again, because then they have that extra money that they want to spend on all this stuff. So I don't know. I kind of hope that the movement is just people wanting to be able to do things on their own. And it's not just pushed by the fact of like, this is the money I have, so I'm going to try to make this work, versus like, when I have a lot of money, back to the city I go.
Yeah. No, I think it's you know, I think it's a good thing. I've noticed that you know, I'm 43 years old, and I've noticed, and I have a very small group of friends. I have literally, you know, 5 people are close to me. I'd call up at 3 a.m. and say, listen, I got a problem. We need help, you know, whatever. And they get out of bed and they come help me. And, you know, what do you need? And we talk about this, you know, this kind of thing all the time. And, you know, at my age, I'm seeing people that are, you know, the generation of, you know, the older generations are dying off. Our grandparents, our parents are getting old. And, you know, there's so many people nowadays that I notice that get to, you know, they retire and they live out of retirement for 2 or 3 years. They get sick and they're fucking dead. And I'm looking at people in their 50s who are getting sick and they're dying. And, you know, at my age, I'm putting more value on life. And I'm like, why have all this shit now when I could be living so much simpler and enjoying my life? Because it seems like everybody's, you know, they do the school, and the school programs you to live your life and work until you're 65. Then you retire. Then you get a few good years with a, you know, pocket full of money and go. So why not split that pocket of money up, enjoy yourself a little bit, try to retire around, you know, 50 if you can, enjoy some of your life. I mean,
I don't even think most people nowadays even have the idea that they'll ever retire. So it's just like, at least millennials in my generation, it's just, we enjoy what we have while we have it, because we know that, especially now with the way things are, it's like, we're not going to be able to save up for shit. Like, I'm expecting to probably have to work the rest of my life. I mean, I'm not betting on Social Security myself. Like,
yeah, it'll be gone by the time we're there. But, yeah, I don't know. So I think it's, you know, in the you know, the Rona monster that pushed a lot of people into hiking and stuff, and getting out of the woods. And I tell you, I'd pass a lot of people on trail, just, you know, on day hikes and things like that. We're totally unprepared for the outdoors. I mean, these mountains they don't cater to you. You know, you could have, you know, a beautiful 70-degree day on the bottom. You get to a summit and it's 40 degrees and it starts snowing. You know, they're not prepared, but, you know, through time, they, I wouldn't hate on them. I'm glad they're getting out there and doing this shit. But along with all this, it also stirs up a lot of commotion in the woods, so is there an uptick of, even stirring up, say there's paranormal stuff going on, is that stirring up, paranormal stuff where, they don't want all that presence there or Bigfoot things or whatever. It's kind of calmed down a little bit now, but there's, I bet you there was a 60% uptick since 2020 to now in people hiking, camping, and, spending time, in the backcountry where it's more desolate. So,
Inquiries of All Reality will be back after this brief commercial break, but just a quick reminder, don't forget to go and check out the awesome sponsors of the show, IKNOWSQUATCH, Cryptoteeology, Snarly Owl Natural Products, Oregon-ite, Dimension Devices, and Big Ape Threads. More information and discounts for those are all available down in the show description. Now feel free to fast forward through these commercials so we can hop right back into the show. And we are back, so let's get back to it. I definitely think it's a matter of stirring up the land, just more people in the area, stirring stuff up, angering spirits, angering cryptids, whatever happens to be there. More people in the area, more experiences. I mean,
yeah. No, I mean, that makes sense. And, like I say, I'm glad they're getting out there and doing that stuff, but it seems to be, you're hearing more and more of these stories and, are things getting stirred up where the, nature's out of balance or the paranormal world is getting out of balance, just too much noise, too much, chaos going on in their world from us being there. So I guys, you could probably dive pretty deep down that, but
I mean, diving deep into it now that you've kind of brought it up a little bit, we covered some of your more recent Sasquatch stuff. I know last time you were on the show, you talked about a few other experiences. It seemed like they're a little bit more on the paranormal side. So have you had any more off paranormal weird phenomenon type experiences since last time we talked?
Nothing since the last time we talked, but I do have a weird encounter that happened years ago. This is 90. I was going to share it last time. I guess we talked before the show and talked about it. We just never talked about this, but I was a young boy, probably 13, maybe 12, 13, 14, somewhere in there. On a Boy Scout trip, we used to do these 50-mile hikes through the Adirondacks. We do, it'd be a 5-6 day journey or whatever. And then there would be 2 leaders, and they'd take us in the woods. We do these 50-mile treks. So these things called blowdowns. You probably get them in the UP up there. So basically, they'll get a flatline wind through the woods. It'll knock all the conifers down, all the softwoods basically, because they're a lot more weak than the hardwoods. So you'll get this big patch of woods. It's like a square mile of woods that's been flattened. So you get a 100-year-old tree that's huge, and you get thousands of them. They're all knocked down like someone took a broom across the grass and just knocked everything down. Excuse me. So the hiking trails, if they go through this, a lot of times the DEC or the forest rangers will reroute a trail temporarily around it before they can get in there and recut the trail out with chainsaws and a crew of people. So I think we're in our third day into a 5-day trek, and the pack split up. Say there was, figuratively speaking, say there was 20 kids on this hike. And we all seem to split up into groups like 3 or 4. And it's kind of as your pace as you're hiking or whatever. The guys that all hike about the same pace will kind of coagulate together and they'll kind of hike in a little group of 3 or 4 guys. And, they're spread out probably within a quarter of a mile. Everybody's pretty close. And so I was hiking with 3 or 4 of us, and these guys I still talk to today and can confirm this story. We got to a blowdown, and we got in the middle of it. We decided to hike through it instead of around it with a trail, like dumb kids will do. And we get in the middle of it. I mean, a square mile in the woods is big. A square mile in a blowdown is really big. I mean, you can get lost, turned around, and be in there for a long time. So we had stopped. You're climbing over trees, under trees, around brush, and it's a freaking mess. So we had stopped and realized our mistake, and we're just kind of talking. Should we just go back out? Should we try to go back through? Should we try to go to the side and meet the trail that goes around now, or what we should do? And out of the blue, this old man pops in about 10 feet from us. He had brown khaki pants on, and he's 20 miles back in the woods. Brown khaki pants and one of those old Woolrich hunting jackets, the red and black plaid. And he goes, He had a fisherman's hat on. And he goes, "You boys lost?" And we're young teenage kids or whatever. Like, yeah, like we're a little turned around in here, trying to figure out what to do. And he goes, "Well, the trail's right over here. I can bring you to it." And then that doesn't seem weird to us because we're kids. We're like, "Oh, hell yeah, let's like show us where we gotta go." We trust this guy. We whatever. So he brings us out to the trail, and we walked. Probably took us 10 minutes to get out. We walked, got to the trail where it intersected. So we're kind of in an open area now, out of the blowdown. And we turn around, and this guy's gone. He just disappeared. He is gone. And this happened within under a minute. Like we all got out, like turned around, looked at each other, and the guy's gone, just disappeared. So maybe a hermit ghost or who the hell knows what that was. But
kind of a weird thing to question. But was he by chance wearing a flannel shirt?
Yeah, he had the flannel. Yeah, he had a flannel.
Was it red?
The red and black checkered flannel.
Oh my God, you saw a flannel man. I haven't heard that one talked about in a while, but it was this phenomenon that people were talking about for a while where you would have these like flanneled men that would like end up like luring kids like out of danger in the woods and stuff. Like this is like a common sighting that a lot of people have talked about. And specifically they're always wearing these like red flannel shirts and they're always like, they call them the flannel mans and they just end up like walking kids out of the woods and then they just disappear, almost like a guardian angel type thing.
Yeah, dude, you just gave me goosebumps. Like I never heard of this before, really.
Yeah. See,
like a thing?
Yeah, it's a thing. I'm telling you, go look up the flannel man or flannel man. Yeah, and I guarantee you'll find a bunch of stories about it. And also kind of ties in the fact that you were younger when this happened. So it fits the perfect flannel man motif.
Really? No, dude, I've never heard that before. Yeah, and he popped into that blowdown. Like we didn't hear him coming, and you would have, you'd make a lot of noise going through there. And we literally got to the trail and we turned around and he was gone. Like, and there was nowhere for him to go because it was open hardwoods. Like you would have seen him walking away. It's
like the guardian angel of the woods or something. Like maybe
possibly.
It was something where, it was like a grandpa. I don't even want to say a grandpa specifically because this is something that's like sighted around everywhere, but maybe there is some type of like being in the woods that is intended to be like a guardian angel or like lure people out of danger. And maybe it kind of picks the image of something that people are going to be comfortable with in the woods. And what would you not be more comfortable with than following the woods than an old man wearing a flannel shirt that says, "No way, yeah, I know the way out. It's this way. Follow me." Like that's like the ultimate like comfort thing there. So I almost kind of wonder if this is like something else taking on the form of something that you're comfortable with so that it can lead you out of danger.
Oh man, that's I've never heard of the flannel man. That's kind of screwed up. That's messed up, man. You got me. Wow. You kind of just blew me away a little bit there. I've never heard of such a thing. I'll have to look it up now.
See, the flannel man stories are always the best when somebody's never heard of it before, because then as soon as you start connecting dots, it's like, again, this is like a regular phenomenon. And this, it seems like it dipped down because when I first started the show, it was like I was hearing flannel man encounters like regularly, and I haven't heard a flannel man encounter in at least like a year or two. So it's been a while. Like I'm glad that you brought this back up because maybe this will be something that starts popping back up again just because it's getting brought back into the forefront again.
Dude, it's kind of blowing my mind here. I didn't know there was such a thing. It was just a weird, young kids, we just didn't, we didn't put any value to it. It was like, oh, cool, this guy's going to help us out. And then bam, he's gone. And then so actually we got caught back up with the other hikers. There's another 3 or 4 behind us. They call it bringing up the rear. The slower ones will walk up the trail behind everybody in case somebody drops something or whatever and pick things up. We met them. So we had hikers in both directions on the trail, and nobody saw this guy in the trail. So he would have had to go one way or the other to get away from us. So he would have passed somebody, and nobody passed him.
And that's always the common thing too, is that somebody will like as soon as they get into that clearing where they're in a safe area, they'll turn back and these guys will just be gone.
Dude, oh my God, that's crazy. I just got the goosebumps, man. Like that, I've never heard of such a thing.
But you never got a negative feeling or anything from it either, right? Because nobody seems to ever report a negative feeling with these things.
Yeah, he was totally, we trusted him, of course we're dumb kids. We don't look anything beyond, what we see, and yeah, he just walked us out. I remember following him out, through the blowdown or whatever, got to the trail and then boom, he's gone. So I've never heard of such a thing. That's kind of, I'm going to have to do some digging, man.
And just out of curiosity, just to kind of get a little bit more of a description, like if you would have guessed, like, of course, it's kind of harder to judge when you're a kid how old somebody is exactly, but like how old would you have guessed this guy was?
70, probably.
70s? Oh yeah, so he's like an older guy then, because that's again usually how it's described, is that it's like an older guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's wow. I don't have any words for that, man. That's I usually got a lot to talk about. I'm kind of speechless right now.
You're going to have to start looking into that, man. I'm kind of curious if there might be more in that area because it seems like you're kind of connected in with a lot of the hikers in the area. I'm curious if any other ones that you're connected in with may have had some of these experiences when they were a kid. And that's one of those ones you never really think about. And then when somebody brings it up, then all of a sudden you're like, wait, you've had that same experience too? And the guy just disappeared. I just thought I was a kid and just, you just kind of throw it off and don't really think about it.
Yeah,
like,
honestly, dude, I've never, I mean, when I see them guys and we talk about it, like, remember that? Like, oh yeah, we remember that. And, it never goes beyond that. We never, put two pennies into it, but mentioning that, I mean, that's kind of, I mean, if that's a thing, that's probably what it was. But he's, he came across as a friendly old man, like a grandpa, and, let us the way out. And that was it. Freaky. That's kind of, wow.
And kind of getting on the other side of some freaky stuff before we end up running out of time here. I know that last time you came on, you had mentioned an encounter you had where you were chopping wood and you went to go leave and you ended up having this experience where you were seeing these little short shadow type things that were like watching you leave out of the area. Just out of curiosity, have you had any more experiences with these things, or have you heard of anybody else in that area have any experiences with it? Because it's something that's kind of been sitting in the back of my mind ever since you told me that encounter that I want to dive more into. And yeah, I'm curious if you've picked anything up with anybody else possibly having a similar encounter in that area.
No, I have not heard anything about that. Nobody goes in there. I mean, it's just there's no reason to be in. Like, no people might hunt in there maybe here and there, but it's private property. It's a big piece of woods. I've not been back in there, and every time I tell that story, I get the chills. And like, it's literally across the road from my house. I will not go in there at all.
Have you not been in there since that experience, kind of like you talked about last time?
Nope, hell no. Nope, I will not go up there. Nope, no gun. I am not going in them woods.
See, that's one of those things though. When you start dealing with something that's paranormal or a shadow, like, you can have the biggest gun in the world on you, but it's not going to do nothing against that. Maybe against a Sasquatch, but even against Sasquatch, it's like most of the time people have these like hunting rifles. They're like, it looked too human to shoot, but even on top of that, I didn't think this rifle was going to even do anything against this thing.
No. Let me I throw some wood in the stove real quick. You mind taking a second?
Yeah, for sure.
We will be right back after this brief commercial break, so stay tuned. And we are back, so let's hop right in.
So, hopping back in again, I know that in the beginning of the show, you had mentioned that you've had some UFO encounters in this area. So, kind of covering the full spectrum of things, I guess, because we've kind of hit Sasquatch, we've hit paranormal. We got to hit some of the UFO stuff. So, if you're interested in sharing with the listeners, I'd love to hear about some of your UFO experiences.
Yeah, I got something to share. And again, I don't go looking for this shit. It just happen. I don't know why. It just happens to me for some reason.
That's what most people say. That seem to be like antennas for phenomenon.
Like, I don't, the Bigfoot researcher I went out with, he's like, "Don't you want to see one?" I'm like, "Dude, I do not want to see one. I don't want any of this shit to happen to me, but it happens. So let's talk about it, and see what comes of it." But when I was young, this is going back to 1988, 89, many years ago. This was before the stealth bomber came out, and my cousin and I were in a bowling alley parking lot in our town, our village where we live here, and we're in right in the middle of central New York. And this we're playing hide and seek or manhunt. I forgot what the hell we're doing. We're being kids, we're young, and this triangle object came over the top of us. It was all black. You could see the outline of it, in the sky over the city lights. So it's pretty easy to make out. There was 3 red lights on it, one on each side, black triangle. I mean, it's good size. It looked like a stealth bomber. Is exactly what it looked like. But the bottom of it had a dome that was concave into the craft, and there was white light on the inside, like the whole inside was lit up on it or whatever. And this thing came over the park, like it slowly came towards us. It looked like in the sky it was doing like 10 miles an hour, and it came like directly to us and hovered over us in the parking lot. I bet you, thinking back now, probably 100 feet off the ground. And I hit under a car, and I'm yelling at my cousin. He's standing right underneath this thing. There's probably 100 cars in the parking lot. I don't know if it was a Friday night bowling league. Who knows? but there was a lot of cars in the parking lot. I ducked under a car and I'm yelling to him like, get under the car, get under the car, get under the car. What the hell are you doing? And he would not move. He's just standing under the thing. And now I'm looking like
Like he was mesmerized by it or something?
he would not move, man. He's like looking up to this thing. He's right in the middle of the parking lot, this little kid. And now I'm looking at him like this, you know, the Travis Walton story where he goes underneath the craft and it beams him up. You know, this was before Fire in the Sky and that shit came out. And you know that part in the movie where he stands under the craft and it beams him up in the woods?
Yep.
You remember that also? Yeah, so this is kind of like the same thing. So he's directly under this craft. I'm like, holy shit, like, get out of the car. I'm yelling to him. He wouldn't move. So it seemed like the thing was there for like 10 minutes, but it was probably like seconds. And it stopped over him, and then suddenly it takes off very slowly, just like first gear in a car. He's just cruising away from us. And he's like, "Did you? What the hell was that?" And we're like, "I don't know. Let's go home or whatever." So we're booking it up we get on the sidewalk. We're booking it up the street. He's like a block away where he lives. And then we come around. We just come to the sidewalk, and the police car comes around. And he goes, "Did you boys just see that?" And we're like, "Yeah." What the hell was that? And he goes, "I don't know. I've been following it ever since it came into the city limits or whatever." I'm like, "Holy shit!" Like whatever. We got the hell out of there because we're little kids. We were scared to death.
And you said this thing just straight up hovered though too, so it wasn't like, you know, a lot of people, especially going back in the 80s, like to throw like secret aircraft that is now known aircraft, but even as far as we know now, other than helicopters, like there's no planes that can hover.
Yep, and it was completely silent, and they had a very slow clockwise rotation to it, looking at it from the ground. It was it just kind of like spun very slow, but it was, you know, spinning around. So the cop, and I think I talked to you about this before. I think it wasn't on video or whatever, or on a podcast, but so the cop goes, "You guys see that?" We're like, "Yeah, we got the hell out of there." And so there was like 7 sightings of this thing in the valley that night. Everybody sees it. So the MUFON comes out.
That's what was going to be my next question, is if there's a report on MUFON about this thing.
So they come out. There's the police officer that saw it with us, or he had to be right next to us somewhere on the street when he saw it. Wouldn't comment on it. I've looked back for the MUFON file. I've dug for it, and I cannot find any mention of our thing down there. And there was a guy named Keith something. It was with MUFON. He actually came and interviewed both of us, brought us in separate rooms. We both drew the same thing, had the same story, and it was seen in the valley, you know, from a bunch of other people that same night. So if it got covered up, you know, MUFON, I think, kind of investigates all this shit from what I understand and documents it, but there's no documentation. There's actually our story was on the local news that these 2 little kids saw it, and the pictures of our drawings were on the news. And I'm 99% sure back in the day we had a VCR. My mom recorded the news, you know, the news broadcast or whatever, and I can't find the VHS tape from that either. So my story's as good as shit right now, but that's what happened to us.
Man, if you ever end up finding that tape, you'll have to send me a recording of it or something like that, because I'd love to see that, man.
Dude, I'd love to find it. But yeah, it was on the local news that 2 young boys in the town where we're from were the first ones to see this and report it or whatever. And, you know, now it's all gone. I can't find anything on the archives from the news station. I can't find anything of MUFON in the area. And nothing with the police reports. Actually, a friend of mine's a police chief, and he said there's no documentation of anything from that occurrence. So
see, that kind of gets suspicious for 3 different means. Either one, it was some type of government technology, and they were like, "All right, you guys have this. We're gonna scrub all of this and pretend like it never happened." Or on the other side, it really was something, and the same thing kind of happened, where it's like, "All right, scrub everything." Or on the other side, you know, MUFON, whoever was investigating it, maybe didn't deem it as, you know,
important.
Yeah, and they just kind of threw it out of the record. But I tend to lean more towards when something disappears out of everything, that either 1, it was something completely legit, or 2, it was some type of government technology that they took that extra effort to make sure that nobody knew actually existed after, you know, it got spread around locally. After that, they're like, "All right, let's nip it in the butt."
Yeah. I mean, anything, I guess, in my mind, you know, being rational as much as I can, you know, if it's a UFO, I'm guessing it's more of a government thing, because if this is a UAP nowadays, right? Or is that what they call them, right?
UAP, yeah.
So
unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Okay, so if if something is, legitimately coming here from a different time dimension, planet, whatever, they don't, there's no need for them to have lights on their craft to show us their lights. Like, they're obviously a lot smarter than us if it's legit. Like, this craft had 3 red lights on it, no green lights, and the white dome in the middle. So, I'm guessing it was more probably of a government thing, but, who knows?
I
But
mean, I'm still pretty convinced that a good portion of the abduction phenomenon may be government intervention. I'm sure you probably listened to the episode, do it with my continued Nazi experiment theories and stuff like that. But I think that I'm not saying all of the phenomenon is human related, but I do definitely think there is a portion of it. Because if you got to take into consideration that if extraterrestrials are doing this stuff, governments are probably thinking the same thing. Like, what's the interest? So they're going to be trying to at least parallel whatever experiments these extraterrestrials are doing to try to figure out what they're doing exactly.
Yeah. And, it's funny. I talked to that gentleman I was talking to that I told you about earlier with the Bigfoot, and, nobody finds a dead bear in the woods rotting away. Where do they go? And then he goes, what do you think about 9/11? I go, how far do you want to go? And, he goes, don't you think it's odd that those 2 buildings fell in their footprint like they did, like both of them? I'm like, yeah. I go, what about building 7? He's like, what's building 7? So I go, let's do some research here. I'll show you. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah. And I showed it to him. He's like, that fell perfectly. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of strange, isn't it? And, I'm just kind of like not playing with him, just kind of seeing if he's like really interested or, whatever he's doing. Yeah. So the interesting thing is that if, BD 9/11, and they say it was a drone plane, 2 drone planes they use, or 3 drone planes, not a missile in the Pentagon, right?
Yeah, because where's all the wreckage? Why is it all blown outward? I was going to bring up the Pentagon stuff because that's always my smoking gun when I have the 9/11 conversation.
Like $2.4 trillion missing. The next day, the Pentagon blows up and all the files burn up. But
yeah, they're like everybody let's have a meeting in this one office, and that's where everything got hit at. So it's like, weird. And then it was never asked about again.
The odd thing is, what happened to the people that were on them flights? Where did they go? MK Ultra shit. They using them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's a good point.
Planes to blow them up to take the buildings down. We can. People talk about this shit. We go on for hours about it, but what happened to the people on those flights, or like Malaysia flight that disappeared?
That one even more so than 9/11. You wonder where the people go, because you can always take into consideration that the government would just fly a plane full of people, even if it was remote piloted, into a building. But as far as that one goes, where they just outright disappeared, and there was like the weird phone calls back and forth and stuff in the mix of all of it, like those people straight up disappeared somewhere.
Yeah, you want to go conspiracy and crazy, and I can wrap my garage in more tinfoil, but who's to say that was good, right? So who's to say that we're already not on another planet if that exists, and they've like Malaysia flight had the perfect amount of different people and breeds of people on that plane to start a new a new first generation on a new planet. Like, everything was perfect, the setup was pretty good, so he just took that flight. Who knows who's watching what and who's getting on where and doing what. So oof, we can go deep, buddy. We can go deep.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. As soon as you get into that conversation, that opens up a whole other can of worms.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I'll definitely have to have you come back on, hopefully sooner rather than later, and not even getting into your experiences and stuff. I mean, we can just have like a back and forth conversation talking about all this weird conspiracy and phenomenon and stuff like that, which I think would be definitely a fun conversation if you're interested in having it.
Yeah, just talk shop. I'm good with that, man. This is fun.
Oh, yeah, just at least to catch up every couple months, man.
Absolutely.
Hold tight, guys. This is the last break, so stay tuned. And we are back, so let's hop right in.
But at least kind of starting to wrap up this show, at least, I always like to do words of wisdom from the guest to the listener. So if there's any words of wisdom you might want to bestow on even some unexperienced hikers to try to maybe give somebody a little bit safer of a hiking experience, what might your words of wisdom be?
I think my only words are, believe nothing of what you hear and only half what you see. That's towards life, and that's towards hiking in the woods and squatching and UFOs or whatever. Because can't believe anything you hear, and who knows what the hell you're seeing, and if we're registering it, correctly.
question everything. That's the thing at the end of the day. Just question everything.
Absolutely.
And I know that you don't have the typical links and everything like that because you don't have like a page that you want people to follow and all that. But I know that you, in the beginning of the show, before we started recording, you mentioned that you'd been on a couple other podcasts recently, and you want to kind of give some of them a shout out. If listeners want to come and listen to a couple other episodes you've been on, why don't you let them know some of the other podcasts you've been on and where they might be able to find them at.
Sure. Definitely check out Andronic Bigfoot. John runs that. Super cool dude. I think he's pretty legit. I don't think he's a bullshitter at all. Definitely check it out. He's got some good content. He's just getting rolling. I think he probably 8 episodes out right now. I'm doing another one with him that actually drops Wednesday this week. Will be coming out. Definitely, if you're into Squatch stuff, you have any interest in the Adirondack Park, 6 million acres of state land, man. A lot of stuff can be going on in there, and he's kind of diving into it. And the other one's my friend James. He's runs a 46 of 46 podcast. It's a hiking podcast out of the Adirondack Park. He does get into, he's a Sasquatch believer. He has been paralleled. He's had some few experiences. He's always in the backcountry. Super athlete, running these high peaks and stuff, and a genuine good dude. Definitely check his show out, and definitely be worth your while. He won't be disappointed on either of them. So.
Well, I appreciate you making the time to come on today, man. Really looking forward to next time, and it's always nice catching up with you because, like I said, you're one of the OGs, man, so I got to make sure that we, again, do this sooner rather than later next time.
Yeah, same here, brother. This was a great time, man. I really enjoyed this again. Good time.
If anyone would like to get in touch with me for any reason whatsoever, you guys can get a hold of me through email, which is inquiriesofourrealitypodcast@outlook.com, or through social media. Instagram or Facebook are the two that I'm the most active on. Or you guys can also get a hold of me through the submission form, which is available on the link tree. And there are 2 there, so make sure you select the right one. The first one is to contact me. The second one is to report an encounter. So while you're there, don't forget to report an encounter to ommencounterreports@outlook.com. And if it's any easier for you, and I definitely prefer the call-ins, you guys can also call the hotline, which is 313-364-1551. And if you missed that number, it is available down in the show description. So make sure you guys go down and look for that. And every single thing that I mentioned throughout the show is all available in the link tree, which is available down in the show description. And with that, hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. I hope today's show connected some dots in your own reality. And I'll catch you on the next one. Have a good night, everybody.
Reality isn't what it seems. Abductees taking aboard a craft with a tractor beam. Is life a simulation or an astral dream? Aliens travel through black holes in different galaxies. Life is a bizarre odyssey. With a mic talking about philosophy. Well, Bigfoot is stalking campers as a Wendigo walks through the woods of sharpened antlers, using a Ouija board to talk to the dead like a necromancer. There's so many questions and not enough answers. So if you're interested in mysteries and abnormalities, tune in and listen to Inquiries of Our Reality. So if you're interested in mysteries and abnormalities, tune in and listen to Inquiries of Our Reality.